Well, hello, guys. I'm Steve Levitt. Welcome to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for a live webinar with counselor Steve Levitt. This is what I do full time is counsel. Add in there that we also do a lot of other stuff too. So let me know if there's any problem with the connection or the sound or anything like that. We'll be glad to make any corrections. In the world of technology, it's crazy, but this is really cool. Look at what we get to do. A free seminar, webinar on anxiety, OCD, fear, worry, and stress. Pretty remarkable, really, technology today. So I guess we're just going to jump in and get started. We have YouTube here and Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. I'll be looking at different cameras, and that's what we do. This is YouTube and Facebook directly in front of me. Over here is TikTok on the iPad, and up here we have Instagram on my cell phone. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me just so you know. My website is stevelevitt.org. My counseling practice is just Steve Levitt Counseling. stevelevittcounseling.org. I'm sorry, stevelevitt.org is the website if you want to check that out later. Here's my story, I guess. I've got a master's in counseling from Dallas Theological Seminary, a master of arts in biblical counseling. I've counseled for over 30 years. Since I was in my early 20s, I've been counseling. I'm 57 now. I've been counseling over 30 years. And I've seen over 4,000 clients in my counseling career. Just as I was starting my counseling career, my wife, Martha, found out she had cancer. And within a year, she passed away from cancer, leaving me with a 2-year-old son and a 4-month-old daughter. My anxiety, my obsessiveness, my worry and stress and anxiety went through the roof. I had always had it. As a child, I didn't know, I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know what it was until I was 30 years old after Martha had passed away. But I had always had it. I was always an anxious kid. I'd had panic attacks throughout my childhood, through my early adult life, but it was manageable. I was able to manage it, move through it, and then go on with life, not get overwhelmed with it. But during the year that my wife was sick, it became unmanageable. I was having panic attacks all day long, every day. Would shake in bed trying to go to sleep at night as my chest was tight. I thought I was dying of a heart attack. And I finally decided I've got to, I just thought I was dying. Honestly, I thought there was an illness killing me. And I had to start figuring out what was wrong with me. And finally, I identified it, put a name to it, and called it anxiety and panic attacks, right? Anxiety, generalized anxiety with acute anxiety and panic attacks. By the way, the rules are here. I'll answer questions. I'm going to just share with you a bunch of information here in the beginning. And then you guys can talk among yourselves and share among yourselves. That's great. But I'll respond to questions and answers after I'm done kind of sharing some general information with you guys. And being obsessive like I wasn't about to just lay down to anxiety. I began to study it and read about it and watch videos on it and ask any psychiatrist I could sit down and ask, any medical doctor. I studied it. I studied the medical side of it, the psychological side of it, the spiritual side of it, which was almost null. Nobody back then, from pastors and seminary profs, nobody knew what this was or what to do with it. They would just call it a spiritual issue. So um, I had to learn. There wasn't a class I got to take on this, right? So I had to learn stuff as I went along, and I ever since then, for over 20 years now, I have studied it intensely. I've written a book. You can buy the book on Amazon called Walking on Water When You Feel Like You're Drowning. Walking on Water When You Feel Like You're Drowning, on this subject. I wrote it with Tommy Nelson, who was a mentor of mine for 13 years, pastor of Denton Bible Church, went through it himself. Uh, I've been able to help him and walk along beside him with this issue. Anyway, we wrote a book called Walking on Water When You Feel Like You're Drowning. And so there's a book out there on this subject that combines all three of those: medical, physiological, organic, and the spiritual side of it. And we're going to talk about all those tonight. So if it's you, what are the symptoms of this overactive brain? What do most people feel? I've never read this anywhere, but I believe that there are two different types of anxiety that people have. One, and the most common, is the physiological, organic, biological panic attack that you feel in your body and you have symptoms in your body. We'll talk a lot about that. The other one is a little different. It's people who are typically a little more OCD and a little more wrecked in their brain with the chatter dude, as we have named him, that lives in your head that won't shut up. And they may have what I call mental anxiety, where they don't necessarily have all the physiological responses to anxiety, but their brain hurts, their mind hurts, they're wrecked in their mind with this anxiety that goes on in their head. So there's two different types. On the physiological side, here's what typically happens. So you have a chatter dude, right? And that chatter dude lives in your head. He comes out of your, I think it's called the medulla oblongata, whatever that gland is in the bottom back of your brain. That's where your thoughts originate. That's where your intrusive thoughts come from. And he's back there going, oh no, what if? Yes, but are you sure? Blah, 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 blah. And he doesn't shut up, and he's not your friend, and he just seeks to destroy you. So those thoughts start there. Those of us who are obsessive and struggle with obsessiveness, we have some problems in our frontal cortex, the frontal part of our brain, frontal lobes. The frontal cortex is supposed to filter out those thoughts and discern, oh yeah, that's a lie. Dump it. You don't need to be afraid. That's not rational. Dump it. But it bypasses that frontal cortex that's supposed to be doing its job. It bypasses that, and then it begins to do what we call ruminating, where you ruminate and it spins and it spins, and it doesn't spin to a good conclusion. It almost always will spin out to the darkest, end of the road, worst case scenario that it can come to. It spirals downward and gets worse and worse and works you up more and more, all because of this lie that's being thrown out into your brain as an intrusive thought, and then this ruminating thought that spins in your head until you're just in a mess and this bad scenario. Then what happens is, once you now kind of are living in this, what you think is your reality at that point, that I should be afraid, that it's a terrible situation, it comes back to your brain and tells your brain that you're in danger. That's what this dark end is. That's what this lie is that you're believing. It's telling your brain that you must be in danger. The house is going to burn down if you don't check the stove again. Somebody's going to come in the door and kill you if you don't check the locks again. That itch you feel on your back must be cancer. You're dying of cancer. So now you have this sense of danger. We're going to go broke. My spouse isn't going to love me well. My children are going to turn out bad. Whatever it is, you've created a sense of danger in your head. Well, God created you to respond to danger. God created you, your body, to respond appropriately if a bear is chasing you, or you're falling off of a cliff, or there's a bad guy. You have this thing called fight or flight in your system. That fight or flight is put there on purpose to give you extra strength and extra endurance to either fight off that danger or flight, get away from that danger. And it's great when you need it. It's awful whenever you're just sitting in a restaurant or sitting in church or watching a movie at night or shutting your eyes and trying to go to sleep. It's not good then because you're not in danger. It's a lie what you're believing. You're not in danger, but your body is thinking that it's in danger. So your body is going into full-blown fight or flight. What happens is the minute that switch gets flipped into fight or flight, it sends a signal to your adrenal gland and it says, adrenaline, activate. And that's that hot flash that you feel coming out of your chest, that hot wave that you feel. The immediate hot flash is the adrenaline releasing. Why do you need adrenaline? For strength, endurance, quickness, alertness, all this other stuff. Adrenaline, all over your system. It spikes your cortisol levels. Your cortisol is your stress chemical, right? And the more stress, the more cortisol, and it spikes the cortisol. We're going to talk more about what it does in just a minute. So immediately, boom, fight or flight, adrenal. You feel this deal. That adrenaline hits your heart, and fight or flight says you need more blood because you're in danger. You need to circulate more blood for endurance and strength and all this stuff. So your heart starts beating really fast. That adrenaline hits your heart. Then it hits your lungs, starts hyperventilating your lungs, trying to get more oxygen in your bloodstream so you'll have more endurance to run away from the danger. So you feel tight in your chest, maybe tight in your throat. You feel like you can't breathe. You think you have asthma, all those things. It's anxiety. Then it hits the next stage. And the next stage in your body is this, and it's awful. It seeks to protect your vital organs because you're in danger, right? You're not, but your brain thinks you're in danger. Your body thinks you're in danger. So it wants to protect your vital organs. So it draws the blood out of your extremities to protect your vital organs. That's why then you get cold hands and cold feet. All you anxiety obsessors, worriers out there, you have cold hand and cold feet all the time because it's drawing the blood out of your extremities and out of your head. So you're lightheaded. You don't have the blood up there. It also doesn't consider your stomach as a vital organ. So, and the stomach is a huge consumer of energy. So it dumps all the resources to the vital organs and dumps the stomach off as a non-important organ. Well, in order to do that, it can't just leave your stomach full of lunch. It needs to vacate your stomach so it can shut it down. Well, in order to vacate it, it dumps tons of acid into your stomach. That's how it gets rid of the contents in your stomach, is all this acid in your stomach. So you either have chronic diarrhea or nausea and feel like you're going to throw up all the time, trying to get all that stuff out of your stomach, and your stomach shut down so it feels full and bloated and yucky whenever you try to eat. And if you're a chronic worrier, stressor, anxiety person, you have acid reflux. Almost all of us have acid reflux, gastroesophageal reflux, irritable bowel, ulcers, too much acid in your stomach because it's constantly trying to empty your stomach. The last thing it does is that cortisol washes over your brain. That chemical washes over your brain, and it tells your brain that you're supposed to be afraid. So be afraid. Imminent danger, absolute darkness. Everything then, all areas of your life now are worrisome and bad and dangerous. Everything feels off and wrong and dangerous then, right? I'm not looking at comments, but I bet you guys are going, yes, 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 yes. So true. this imminent danger in your brain is chemically induced. And the reason it's there is for good reason. Um, there was that movie, that dude that climbs in Yosemite Park with free climbs, no ropes, and climbs the biggest Baldy Mountain or whatever. And they took his blood samples before and after, and they found that he doesn't have cortisol, like he doesn't have a stress chemical. He doesn't have fear. Whatever creates fear, he doesn't have any of that. He's not afraid. You have these chemicals that tell your brain, hey, there's a bear. This is a good time for you to run. This is a good time for you to escape. You heard a noise. What's the danger? There's danger out there. That's good whenever there's actual danger. It's a chemical that tells your brain that there is imminent danger around. Well, that's great if a bear is chasing you. It's not great if you're at dinner at church, sitting on the couch, or trying to go to sleep, or trying to decide what you're going to wear today, or picking up the kids in the line. Whatever it is, your body is thinking we have a problem, but there's not a problem. There's not danger like you think there is. That, folks, is the physiological response to fight or flight. Because your brain told your brain that you need fight or flight because you're in danger, because your chatter dude told you that that is an oh no, and that is a what if and a yes but. See, whenever you're obsessive, your brain is kind of bipolar, meaning that it has two different things going on inside of it. On one half of your brain, you have doubt. You obsessors know what I mean. Everything is doubt. I can tell you the answer and you'll go, oh, okay, that feels better. And 5 minutes later, you're going, yeah, but did I tell Steve everything? Or do they really know all this? But what about this? Doubt. Satan, from the beginning of time, has used doubt to destroy humanity. He did it with Eve in the garden when he said, are you sure that's what God said? Do you really think you're going to die? He created doubt in Eve's mind, and he still does it today. Doubt is the Achilles heel of the obsessor. The other problem is that on the other side of your brain, OCD, obsessiveness, or OCPD, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which is more mental compulsions, not physical compulsions. I can answer more about that later if you want. It seeks, demands, and requires closure. You know this if you're an obsessor. You're always trying to get understanding, closure. You're always trying to make sense of it. You're trying to make sure you didn't do harm in that area. Make sure I didn't say it the wrong way, or the paper's written the right way, or whatever it is. Closure. I got to get it right. I got to erase the board all just right. Whatever it is. I've got to get closure, and that's got to be wrapped up, and everything needs to be organized. You may call yourself a perfectionist. You're not. You're obsessive. You need everything in its place and everything where it goes in order for you to feel comfortable and have closure. But your brain is always creating doubt, which is the opposite of closure. So those two things wage war inside of you. That's just the way it goes. Am I hitting home with anybody? Can I get an amen? Screw some light bulbs, right? I'm probably hitting pretty close to home with a lot of you guys. One of the problems that this doubt and closure causes is it causes people around you to think that you're controlling. You're not really controlling, you're being self-protective. Thank you, Diamond D. You're not really controlling, you're obsessive, so you become self-protective. I need things where I need them, so don't touch that, and do that way so that I feel better. And the problem is you'll end up being controlling at other people's expense. I need to be comfortable. I need you to be uncomfortable so that I can be comfortable. And that becomes a problem, right? Not good. Yes, self-protective. All right, so let's take a quick break, and I'm going to take just a minute. I've taken 20 minutes to explain anxiety and OCD. I want to give you my 5-part series. I've come up with over the years 5 things that you can be doing to fix this. Yeah, Liz, pretty close to home, huh? 5 things that you can be doing to fix this. But before we get to that, the solution, I want to answer any questions and talk through. No, I don't interpret dreams. Talk through any questions that you guys may have. Yeah. So, in terms of what it is and what happened, what's happening with me, I think understanding it is half the battle. Just understanding and wrapping your mind around it is half the battle. Trying to figure out what it is. So, questions or comments? Sister says, I am controlling. Ouch. No, I have not read Caroline Leaf's books. What is OCPD? So, OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. OCPD is a DSM 5 diagnosis called obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder tends to look like what we all think: count steps, wash hands, check locks, uh, um, lots of compulsions that gratify your obsession. See, OCD is what it is because there's an obsession and then you do a compulsion to gratify the obsession, to try to satisfy the obsession. So it's obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder tends to be that you have routines and patterns that you do more in your head, not necessarily physical compulsions, not things that you can quirkies that you can put a label on. It's more these routines and patterns and way you do things in your head is more OCPD. Do you go with it or try and fight it? Liz, great question. That's part of the solution, but I'll answer it anyway. Uh, you can't fight it. You have to go with it. Once your body releases the adrenaline, you can't reel it back in. You can't get back to a good place in that moment. You're done. I used to say to myself all the time, whenever I'd feel the panic attack coming on, I would just sit back and go, all right, bring it on. Let's get this over with. Have your way with me. Just let's get this over with. And I wouldn't fight it because you can't. It doesn't do any good. Once it releases, uh, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before you feel like you're functioning again. And that adrenaline stays in your system for up to 3 days before it works itself out of your system. So usually after you have panic attacks, you feel bad for 2 or 3 days afterwards, which oftentimes will promote more anxiety. And then the cycle just goes on and on and on. I'll talk about medicine in just a minute and how I figured out how to break that cycle. Um, any other question? Takes me days to start eat again or just calm down after it hits me. Yeah. It's 2 or 3 days of working that adrenaline out of your system. Can unforgiveness cause anxiety? Yes. I guess let's talk about some of the origins of anxiety. So Hindle just said it becomes a fear of fear. So we have a term for that. It's called anticipatory anxiety. And that was half of my anxiety was the fear of having anxiety caused anxiety. That's right. We call it anticipatory anxiety. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm giving y'all lots of terminology for sure. Um, so um, don't let me forget to answer that question. Can unforgiveness cause anxiety? I want to answer that question, but let me answer any other question. Menopause was my onset, somebody says. Yeah, chemical change. I counsel a lot of women around pregnancy, whenever they're pregnant, or after pregnancy, whenever there's these hormone changes. It's very common. Lots of women after their first child, and they get this sense of, oh man, I'm stuck. Uh, I have this huge responsibility for the rest of my life, and it overwhelms them. Yeah. Any other questions about the symptoms and what anxiety is all about? Then we'll talk about where does it come from. It's all making sense, Liz says. Yep. Can it cause migraines? That takes you out. Interesting, Becky. That's about the third person in the last 2 weeks that have asked me that question. I think yes. In children, the way you recognize anxiety, see, a lot of kids have anxiety and panic attacks, and their parents just keep whooping them for disobedience and things like that. But the truth is, they're paralyzed with anxiety and obsessiveness. Their symptoms are typically three: my stomach hurts, my head hurts, and they have separation anxiety. Whenever those three line up, usually that kid has anxiety for sure. But my stomach hurts is always the top one. Headache is part of anxiety for sure. I think that there was a comment that I missed on TikTok. Anybody else have any other questions? It all sounds familiar, Tina says. Yep. It used to feel like I was dying or having a heart attack, going crazy. Yeah, Hindle. That was my anticipatory anxiety. It always felt like I was having a heart attack, for sure. Okay, I'm talking about anxiety and OCD together. I always thought I just had anxiety, but do I also have OCD? Great question. Thank you. I meant to say something about this. So I've yet to meet somebody with anxiety and panic attacks who's not obsessive. So I use OCD a bit generally because people understand and know that term. But in reality, the obsessiveness, whether it's compulsions or not, OCD, OCPD, it's the obsessiveness that's at the core. The obsessiveness is springing off anxiety and compulsions and things like that. So if you have anxiety, most likely you are obsessive. You overthink, you can't shut your brain off, your brain buzzes about this and wanders off into scary places. Is there a medicine that helps with OCPD? Great question. I'll answer that in a minute. You are obsessive. So underneath the obsessiveness, we're going to springboard into the medical side of this. Let me just talk about the medical side of this, all right, for a minute. And then I will answer more questions as we go along. The medical side of this is the first step in my 5-part solution is understanding and addressing the medical, physiological, organic side of what's happening with you. Now, some people have anxiety and panic attacks on a spiritual level because they're living out a certain sin in their life or behavior in their life. And this is Christian talk. If you're not a Christian, you're not going to necessarily get this. But whenever someone's a Christian, they have the Holy Spirit that lives inside of them. The job of the Holy Spirit one of the jobs is to give you conviction whenever you're doing something outside of the will of God. That conviction feels wrong inside of you, unsettled inside of you. So there are people who are living in sin and known sin and unconfessed sin and things like that. And unforgiveness can be one of those if you haven't forgiven and you're living in emotional turmoil inside because of the Holy Spirit, and that can create anxiety. That's a smaller group of people. Most people have a physiological, organic issue going on with them. And usually, or oftentimes, it is due to a serotonin deficiency. I'm just telling you what psychiatrists have told me. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. Please don't go out and do anything medically based on what I say, but I'm telling you what I've learned. Um, we know this because whenever they're given a medication that boosts their serotonin, actually boosts the serotonin that they have, tricks that serotonin into feeling like you have more serotonin, then they begin to feel better. Whenever you lack serotonin, serotonin is the chemical in your body that gives you a sense of well-being. Whenever your serotonin is healthy and good, you feel healthy and good and optimistic and hopeful. Whenever your serotonin is low, you feel hopeless, and you'll either go to depression or anxiety or both. Depression or anxiety or both. Whenever you're low in serotonin. Why are people low in serotonin? Some people are low in serotonin because of genetics. Most are low because of genetics. Almost everybody I work with says, I'm having anxiety. And I'll say, well, who else had it? Your mom or your dad, or maybe grandparents. And they almost always say, yeah, my mom was this way, or my dad was this way, or whatever. Some people are just genetically dispositioned to be a worrier or low serotonin. My granddaddy was anxious. My daddy is a stressor. I was an anxiety person, and both my sons struggled with anxiety. It's not just learned behavior. There's some genetics involved. Low serotonin. Serotonin can also be low because of trauma. Somebody who has a near-death accident, or a child who's abused, or somebody who, whatever, trauma-related. I visited a guy in the hospital recently that never really had anxiety before in his life, but he nearly died in the hospital. And all of a sudden he woke up having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, trauma related. All of that kind of oppresses your body's ability to produce good serotonin. Lack of sleep, sleep deprivation is the number one cause of depression. Sleep deprivation will kill your serotonin. You cannot expect to have healthy serotonin when you're sleep deprived. Get good sleep. Nutrition helps produce good serotonin. Either way, usually somebody is low in serotonin. So they go to the doctor, and I would encourage you, go see your doctor. Check your thyroid. Make sure your thyroid is, sometimes messy thyroid can mimic anxiety, that rapid heartbeat and some things like that. Check for, make sure there's not some other medical issue going on with you that's creating these symptoms. But you need to go to your doctor. Usually you go in and see the doctor and you say, doctor, I'm having panic attacks. I feel anxious. My heart races all the time, da, 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 da. And they'll say, well, let's try then a SSRI, typically. An SSRI is called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It boosts the serotonin that you have to make your body feel like you have normal serotonin. These are commonly known as antidepressants. Zoloft, Prozac. The most common ones now are Zoloft, Prozac, Lexapro, and Celexa. Those are the most common SSRIs that people will work towards to boost your serotonin up. And I've had thousands and thousands of people go to the doctor, start on Lexapro. That's probably the most common one I see for just anxiety. Typically, I see Prozac and Zoloft for more just OCD without anxiety, but Lexapro or Celexa, they get on it, and within 10 days, they're like, I'm not having panic attacks anymore. They went away. It's pretty remarkable. The second medication that psychiatrists or doctors will often do is in the class of anti-anxiety medication. Anti-anxiety medication is for acute anxiety. If you're having a panic attack, you take something right then, and immediately 20, 30, 40 minutes, it takes effect and makes that anxiety go away. It jumps in between your brain synapses that are freaking out and calms them down. And I would go back to feeling normal. These are called benzodiazepines, right? Xanax, Klonopin, Ativan, old school Valium. Benzodiazepines, alprazolam's generic for Xanax, clozapam's generic for Klonopin. I forget the generic for Ativan. Anyway, these are called benzodiazepines. A lot of doctors have concerns about them. They're afraid they're addictive, and they are to people who are addicts. I've never had a client be addicted to a benzodiazepine because we're all paranoid and obsessive about stuff. So it's not really a problem. And it was probably one of the most powerful things I did whenever I had anxiety, was to be able to take half of the lowest dose of Xanax, and I knew within 20 minutes my anxiety would be gone and I'd go back to normal. And it got rid of my anticipatory anxiety. Why? Because before that, anxiety had control of me. I was afraid of it, and it had power over me. But once I took Lexapro, and then if I had breakthrough anxiety, I knew I could take Xanax, and within 20 or 30 minutes, I'd return back to normal. Now I had control over the anxiety rather than it having control over me. And it was a very powerful psychological tool for me to take a benzodiazepine. All right. Any other medical questions? We're going to get through the other ones pretty quickly, but I wanted to stop if you have any medical questions. Hi, Justin. Good to see you. Okay, we're doing good here. Let's keep going. Let me give you all 5, and then we'll go back through them. The first one is the medical side. Address the medical side. And Christians are the worst because they think, I'm not going to take medicine. If I'm a good Christian, I'll just trust God, blah, blah, blah. That's terrible theology. There's a lot of Christians on meds that shouldn't be on meds, but a lot not on meds that should be. If you have diabetes, you don't just say, well, I just need to eat better and trust God. Your body's not producing something that it's supposed to be producing, and so you have to take something for that. Serotonin's the same way, and antidepressants are the same thing. Sandra, I don't know the answer to that question. Will dopamine help with anxiety? Well, I forget the name of the other one. There are 3 other medicines that are in the SS or SNRI class. And the N word is the neurotriptyline, or I don't know what it's called, but they're antidepressants also. And like they're Effexor, Cymbalta, and Prestique. Those are the 3 other meds that are SNRIs and or SSNRIs. I always get that wrong. And they are indicated as antidepressants, and Cymbalta is actually indicated for anxiety, but I don't know about dopamine. I don't know the answer to that question. Sorry. By the way, there is one other antidepressant, Wellbutrin, out there, and I would really, really, really talk with your doc a lot before going down that road about Wellbutrin. It's not in either of those classes. So anyway, moving on. Yeah, somebody says, what if you can't afford the meds? The generics are next to nothing cheap. And if you can't afford that, you can get the RX cards, or go to the website of the company, the antidepressant, and a lot of times they'll do a free thing for you. Yeah, Effexor, Cymbalta, and Prestique. That's the 3 SSNRIs that are sometimes given and useful. They have a little more ramping up and getting off curve than the SSRIs that I've heard. All right, here's the 5. First, medical. Secondly, you've got to change the way you think so you can change the way you live. If you want to Change the way you think. You have to change if you want to change the way you live, you have to change the way you think. Your cognitions. Number 2 is your cognitions. You have to work on how you think and what you believe and what is true and what is not true. I'll come back to that in a minute. Number 4, grow spiritually. I'm sorry, number 3, to grow spiritually. I believe that the more you learn to trust God, the more peaceful and less anxiety you will have. The more you accept God's sovereignty, the more peace you'll have. So growing in your faith and your trust in God, I think greatly helps you deal with your anxiety. Number 4 is stressors. A lot of people are caught in the anxiety obsessive loop or even depression loop because you have overtaxed your system. You have worried and stressed and taken on more. You've worked too many hours. You don't sleep enough. You have something every night of the week. You have all these financial responsibilities, and you have just exhausted yourself with stressors. You have to reduce your stressors. I'm going to explain how to do that in a minute. Lastly, is learning to accept the worst case scenario. Learning to accept the worst case scenario. Your brain can come up with some serious worst case scenarios, right? I had to learn how to accept those things in order for those things not to have a voice in my head anymore. Learn to accept your worst case scenario. All right, so let's go back through them real quickly. There's the 5: medical, cognitive, spiritual, stressors, and acceptance. Really learn that word acceptance. If you struggle, that means you're a wrestler. You're always fighting with your thoughts, fighting with everything, wrestling. Just learn acceptance. I accept it. I might lose my job. I accept it. My wife may not love me well. I accept it. Someone I love may die. I accept it. I may die. I accept it. I had to learn to accept worst case scenarios. Why did I get off on that? Medical, cognitive, spiritual, stressor, and acceptance. Let me go back up to cognitions. And then I'm going to answer questions. We do what we do because we believe what we believe. I call it belief therapy. Training yourself to believe truth rather than lies. Satan is the father of lies. He desires to destroy you with lies. But God is a God of truth. And the Bible says that the truth will set you free. Whenever you live in your frontal lobe cortex truth, you're at peace. Whenever you live with chatter dude in control, you're miserable. The chatter dude is your enemy. All he knows to do is to give you lies, 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 lies. And so you have to learn to root out the lies that you believe. By the way, the lies that you believe are most often developed in your childhood, before junior high, young age. Most of your belief systems are set in stone by the time you're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And what you've been taught is, if your parents were crisis junkies, if your mom worried about everything, if you had major traumas happen, if you learn that the world is not safe as a young child, then you believe that all the way into your adult life. The lies that you believe often come from those early childhood years. And so you spend your adult life reshaping and rechanging to believe truth rather than these automatic lies that you fall into that you learned early on, or maybe from adult trauma or things like that. You have to retrain your brain to believe truth and quit listening to the lies. Cognitions. Spiritually, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 says to trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Whenever you can learn to not have to control everything, not have to understand it, not have to make sense of it. And whenever you can learn to just pry your fingers off of that issue and learn to trust God with it. God, you're sovereign, you're in control. I trust you. And you may not do it the way I want it. It may not come out the best way possible, but I'm going to trust that I want, but it's going to be best the way you want. I'm going to trust you with it. The more you grow your faith, the better you do. 3 times in the book of Matthew, Jesus told his disciples, "Oh, you of little faith, why are you so afraid?" He compared their faith and their fear. He was saying, grow your faith and your fear will go down. Grow your faith and your fear will go down. So try to grow in the Lord. You don't know that, some of you don't know this, but I do a live Bible study every morning right here. Come back right here. I do a live Bible study morning, 365 days a year for 4 years now. Every morning. And tons of these people, if you're part of the QT, just write QT. Just write QT and let everybody know that you're part of the QT. A bunch of these folks are on the QT every morning. And it's a great way to learn the Word of God because, and you guys know what I'm about to say, the more you read and know your Bible, the more you'll know God. The more you know God, the more you will trust God. And the more you trust God, the more peaceful you'll be. Yes, Cindy, PTSD, trauma does bring on OCD. You become ultra controlling and stuff like that. All right. Grow your faith. Number 3. Number 4, reduce your stressors. You can't work a 60-hour work week, go to the gym every day for 2 hours, have an activity every night, and have 4 kids and have mountains of debt and expect not to have anxiety. You can for a while, and your body will quit on you. Eventually, your body will break. Your body will say, "I'm done," and those stressors suppress your body's ability to produce serotonin. So relieve yourself of the stressors, and your body can start learning to produce serotonin appropriately again. Here's how to do it. Here's all your homework. You want some homework here? Hey, Clint. Good to see you. My boy, Clint. Take a sheet of paper, and I want you to write down every stressor. I want you to write down every stressor you can think of, all the way from the stain on the couch to the house you can't afford, or the stalker, that was after you last year, whatever it is. Write down every stressor you can think of. It may be 10, it may be 100. Write down every stressor you can think of. Now I want you to take that list of stressors, and this is how you reduce it. You go through that list and you see what you can get rid of. I can get rid of that. I don't have to have that stressor. I can make a choice on that one. I don't like it, but I can, and get rid of. And you might get rid of half of your stressors. I've done it before. I've gotten rid of some really important stuff in my life, commitments and things I was doing because I was feeling anxious all the time. And I live a very low-key, stress-free life now. And I do it for my anxiety levels. Get rid of, number 1, get rid of as many stressors as you can. Now you're left, say, with the other half of that list. I can't get rid of them. Look at all these stressors, Steve. I can't get rid of them. All right. Can you change them somehow? Can you change them to not be stressful anymore? Well, Bible study stresses me out every Tuesday night. Well, what about if you did it on Thursday night? Can you change something to make it not stressful anymore? You can't get rid of it, but maybe you can change it. So go through and see what you can change to not be stressful anymore. Now you have, say, 25% left. So you've gotten rid of 75% of stressors in your life. Now you have 25% of the stressors left on the list. What do you do with stressors that you can't get rid of and you can't change? If you can't get rid of it and you can't change, I know people that stress and worry over things that they can't get rid of and can't change. I can't get rid of that. I can't, I'm a white 57-year-old male. I can't get rid of that and I can't change that. I am what I am. What do you do with what you can't get rid of and you can't change? The last one on the list, we've already talked about it. Acceptance. You learn to accept what you can't get rid of and you can't change. Accept it. Why are you fighting it? Why is it an issue why do you keep wrestling with it? Why do you keep going, that worries me, that you can't get rid of it and you can't change it? It is what it is. You have 10 fingers. Unless you're willing to chop one off, you're going to keep having 10 fingers. You can't get rid of it. You can't change it. You have to learn. Be brave. Be brave enough to accept what you can't get rid of and you can't change. Accept the worst. My greatest fear for years was the fear of death. I was hypochondriac. I thought I was dying every time I turned around. Every little gas bubble was a heart attack. Every spot was cancer. Every pain was something. And I was afraid of death. I didn't want to die. And it wasn't noble, like, I don't want to leave my family. I just didn't want to die. I was afraid of death. And I finally said, Lord, I'm done. I'm done being afraid of dying. And I'm not now. I don't want to die, but I'm not afraid of it. It is what it is. Psalm 139 says that God numbers our days before even one of them comes about. Before I was even born, God ordained for me the number of days I'm going to live in this life. They asked Jesus about this, and he goes, worry won't add one day to your life. Worrying about it worrying about it just lowers your quality of life. You still may, I'd rather live 70 quality years than 90 stressful years. It doesn't do you any good to worry about things like that. All it does is lower the quality, and it probably tears your body up more too. So learn to accept your worst case scenario. Hey, Mike, good to see you, brother. All right, I'm done. There's the book in summary. There's the weekend seminar in summary. It took me 50 minutes to get through that. So I'm all yours now. Ask away, ask your questions. I'll try to answer and clarify anything I haven't been clear about. Maybe you have a particular question. So I've got 3 devices here I'm having to watch questions on, so I'll do the best I can. Do you have a question? If you have a comment, just post it. Everybody can read it. But if you have a question, I want to catch it. I guess TikTok, you guys can post or pin questions. That might help me out too. By the way, thank you, moderators. Thank you. My moderators are the best. They're the best. Anybody know that reference? Somebody tell me what that reference is. Do serotonin boosters help? It depends on what you're asking. Serotonin boosters. Are you talking about SSRIs and antidepressants or something that the health food store sells over the counter? Yes, Mike, I'm still your friend. Mike's a good friend right there. Luke 12:25. You can't add one day. That's right, Justin. I'm good at avoiding things, Megan says. Debbie, she's saying over the counter, look, I wish and I pray all the time that somebody comes to me and says, man, I found this over the counter thing and it's just made my anxiety go away. In 30 years of counseling, I have yet to see that happen. It j I they just I don't I did take, cortisol regulators over the counter, and I felt like they gave me a little bit of help. Cortisol regulators. It's good to take your vitamin D and your B12, but to be honest, Debbie, I haven't ever found one that or heard anybody tell me, and almost everybody wants to do OTC before they get on prescription med, and I don't blame you. I understand that, but I haven't had anybody come back and go, "Man, it did the trick." Um, Debbie, hope that helps. Someone asked earlier if dopamine helps anxiety. Yeah, I don't think so. Dopamine is a stimulant. It's like a dopamine is a euphoric. I'm sure it would help you feel kind of euphoric to some degree, but I don't know. I've never have heard anything about dopamine and anxiety, the connection. Uh, hey, Mike, good to see you too, brother. Great verse that me. Any other questions? All right. Is there a way to better handle anxiety triggered by the things like crowded places? Yeah, Liz, good question. She's talking about agoraphobia whenever you're in crowded places and you feel trapped and not in control and you feel danger. It feels unsafe to you. The more people there are around, the more unsafe you feel. Pretty typical of childhood abuse. Uh, to have agoraphobia. But um, yes, you can. In our world, psychological world, exposure therapy is one of the things we do. So you put yourself in that position. Not you don't go to Woodstock for 3 days and expect to be okay, but you're around some people and then you tell yourself the truth. Hey, everything was okay. What are the statistical odds that harm will come to me? Uh, and you just keep telling yourself the truth and lightly exposing yourself to those scenarios. And over time, your brain will relearn that most people are safe. Yes, there's always a risk of danger, but for the most part, crowds are safe. And you take precautions and things like that. Ashwanda helps, and magnesium. I've heard a lot about magnesium is helpful. It helps me feel more calm for kids, a lot of stressors. Liz wants to stay inside and get curbside. Yep. Yes. Exposure therapy is what it's called, and you slowly. But the five things that I just said are fundamental, right? The five things I just laid out. You do that work on the side. I never have anxiety now. I haven't had medicine in years and years and years. Uh, and I've trained myself, I think, out of anxiety. So I think that you do the work on the other end. I'm a non medicine person, medical trauma, talking to God, get some sun on your face, move your body. All good stuff, Liz. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of times agoraphobia has to do with uh, that people are dangerous. I don't have escapes and people are dangerous. And typically, there's abuse there where you as a child you couldn't escape, you were at the mercy of adults, and so it creates a strong sense of unsafe feelings in relation to people. You just don't trust people. Christy says you can tell that he's been there before. He explained me completely. Yep. And it's not just you, it's almost always people with anxiety. We're all, man, we're knuckles, right? We're all brothers and sisters. We're all the same. Maybe a little differences here and there, but man, we all are so close to the same. So happy you did a weekly gig so people can ask questions. You bet, Robert. Uh, You have anxiety about taking anxiety medication. I get it. I get it. All right, TikTok. How do you react to an angry adult son? He doesn't want a relationship. Well, you can't force a relationship. And um, if he's mad at you, I'm assuming you mean he's not angry outwardly, abusively angry towards you. Do I stop talking to him? I don't know what to do. You let him breathe, and about every 3 to 6 months, you reach back out, let him know you love him, let him know that you'd like a relationship with him, and there's nothing else you can do. You can't control him. You can't make him. You have to accept. You have to accept his choice. Now, if there's reasons why he doesn't like you, then you need to consider that and offer him assurance of whatever reason it is he doesn't like you. You can work on yourself that way. I appreciate the explanation, the physical ailments you talked about. You bet, sissy. Do I stop talking to him? I got that. Yeah, Vicky. Amen. All right, KCC in the morning. Is that Casey Lease, by the way? Does anybody know if that's Casey Lease? I don't know. Bet it is. She's awesome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, Sheila. Be great help. Yes, I have the 5 Steve tips down pat. You go, Liz. I know you do. I seldom have anxiety, but when, yeah, I can't handle the but when. I couldn't handle it once a year. I would worry about having that once a year. So, all right, we're about to wrap up here, but any other questions? The verse that came to me yesterday, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities. Yep, Sheila, that's right. So how was this, guys? Webinar 101. First time I've really kind of done this clearly. I don't know if I want to promote it and be more official with it or just do this. I want to do this on marriage. I'd love to do this on marriage. I probably will next few weeks do another one. I'll let you guys know. I'll do another evening time marriage webinar. I think I've been to the wrong doctors after 10 years. They still understand my symptoms like you do, Steve. Yeah, Christy, you sometimes have to educate your doctors or see a psychiatrist. They get it. This was incredible, Liz says. Wonderful. Natalie, amazing. Loved it. Thank you so much. Would love the marriage one. Hey, Molly. Yeah, we'll do a marriage one coming up. Hey, Huck Finn, Jesus Christ is the way to heaven, not a church. Just FYI. Liz, I'm glad that helped you out. Love it. You bet. Yeah, we'll do a marriage one coming up. Bible study here every morning. Oh, my website. You want to do telehealth counseling with me? That's what I do for a living. Gosh, I need to be promoting this. SteveLevitt.org. You can make an appointment there on the website with me. SteveLevitt.org. Make a personal one-on-one telehealth appointment with me, or I do marriage and individual intensives, 4 days, all day long, 5 hours a day with me for 4 days. And we do outdoor experiential stuff too. We might go rock climbing or zip line and things like that and do it therapeutically. It's really cool. So that's a 4-day intensive that I do. I can meet you somewhere if you want to pay for my travel and lodging, or you can come to me. We have a Airbnb near here where you would stay. 4 days in South Texas, by the way, is where I am. South Texas, outside of San Antonio. Pete is in the bedroom with Mama because I didn't want to be distracted. Pete's my big Great Dane dog. He would be in here playing with me, but didn't want distractions. So he's in the bedroom with Mama. I think they're watching a movie. So even though I missed about 30 minutes of it, I think It promotes healthy conversation on things we don't normally get to talk about. Yep. Yeah, you can go back and watch from the beginning. James, yeah. It'll be posted on YouTube and Facebook right after this. So, man, thank you for sharing your knowledge. You're welcome. Hey, Kim. Thank you for your time. You bet, sister. All right, we're done. Ed, how to get yourself to process stuff in your mind instead of bottling it up? Need to get it processed and move on. Ed asks. Well, Ed, you process it. You intentionally process it. Ed, try this. Do a emotions journal. Every half hour, write down in a journal what you're feeling. You can print out on Google all the feelings words, right? I'm happy, sad, confused, afraid, whatever they are. But you need to start being more self aware. Usually, when someone asks that question, they're not very self aware of their emotions. So, you need to start being more in touch with your emotions. What am I feeling and when am I feeling them? Why am I feeling them? And it'll probably help you to talk to somebody, process, and actually start learning to talk about how you feel, which is brutal for some guys. I get it. But begin the process of talking about your feelings, not your actions, not what you did today, but how you felt about what you did today, how you felt as you went through your day. So hope that helps, Ed. Hey, Mama. All right, James. I think we're done. Bye, Instagram. Keep on keeping on. TikTok, you're next. Had a big crew tonight. That was fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Come do Bible study every morning, 7:30 Central, right here every morning. And go to the website, stevelevitt.org, if you want to make a counseling appointment. Bye, TikTok. Love you guys. 707 viewers on 707 viewers on TikTok. That's awesome. All right. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Keep on keeping on. See you tomorrow morning.